back to the channel. I hope you're doing well today. Today I headed out to Griffin Cemetery. It's located in the Ash community in Brunswick County, and it's near the county line between Columbus County and Brunswick County, North Carolina. The reason I went out here was to pay respects and visit a gravesite of my great-great-grandmother and tell you a story. A very sad, tragic story, but a very true story. Her name was Mary Carlisle Simmons. And what I had always heard my whole life was that she gave her baby some medicine to help the baby, and the medicine turned out to be poison, and she'd accidentally killed her child. I heard that's the way I heard that story my whole life, that she gave the baby medicine and the baby died. Now, as I got older and got more into genealogy and more into history and local history and family lore, I wanted to find out more truth about that and see who it was. I wasn't even sure what grandmother it was. Turns out I actually found out a lot of the truth about it, and a lot of it some of it was true, and some of it was after years and years of telling it had changed over time, as many stories and families do. But it was actually more tragic than I thought. And the reason why I was able to verify the information that I received was because that story got picked up by the newspapers and put in. So I actually have dates and names. So her name was Mary Carlisle Simmons, and she was born around 1844, and she married a man named William E. Simmons, and they called him Ned. And at the time that Mary died, she and he had 7 children together. So what had happened before all of that occurred was that my understanding and research shows that Ned had signed some legal documents, and it had been a bad business deal. Something went wrong, and he ended up losing the land they had, and he lost the house, and they lost pretty much everything they had. And those deeds and records are documented in the Register of Deeds office, and they're dated 1877. So this is verified. Now, that would explain why they ended up in the situation that they did. They ended up relocating, and it shows in some of the papers that I read that they were renting a house that had been vacated by a man named J.O. Westbrook in quote-unquote Southport area. So they were living in a house that they're not very familiar with. They had just moved into a rented home. And they had these several children, and one child they had was named Joseph Prince. And he was named Joseph after Ned's father, and so they called him Prince by his middle name. And Prince had began to run fevers. Now, Prince was not a baby. Let's make that clear. That was something that had gotten passed on through the years, that this was the baby. So I imagine an infant or a small child. This was a 14-year-old boy. It was not a baby. It was a 14-year-old teenager. So Prince began to run fevers, and his mother, Mary, probably in search of some medicine, something to help her son who was sick, she found a bottle in the house. Probably a bottle, I imagine, in the medicine cabinet somewhere. And she thought it was quinine. She believed it to be quinine. And for those of you who aren't aware, quinine is a medicine that is used to treat, it's an old medicine, and it's used to treat for nausea and sickness and things like that. And I imagine if the medicine bottle had been in the cabinet for a while, maybe the label was partially off. Maybe it had been there a while. So she administers the medicine. She gives the boy a dose of medicine that she hoped would help him. But it wasn't long before he went into severe convulsions. And within 20 minutes, he passed. Now, I can imagine it was a horror scene to give a child of yours a dose of something that you believe in your heart that would help them, only to watch them succumb to a fit of shaking and tremors, and then eventually death. Now, she called neighbors. It says in the newspaper that she called people. And it doesn't say her husband. She told her friends. So I imagine that her husband wasn't home, and that probably other women that lived nearby in other, not far away, probably heard her calling, help, yelling or something. And they probably ran to her aid. And I can imagine what the scene might have looked like. They were probably all hysterical, not sure what to do. This young child, this boy, had just had this severe seizure, convulsions, who knows, maybe throwing up, who knows, and died suddenly, very quickly. Well, Mary, she was just so overcome with grief. She was quoted in the paper as stating, "I will take a dose myself. If I live, then I will be satisfied. And if I die, I will have no more troubles." So you can imagine she was so overwhelmed by what had just happened. She couldn't wrap her mind around the fact that she had just given her child poison. Because I'm sure someone looked at the bottle and said, "This isn't quinine, this is strychnine. And that's rat poison." She couldn't believe that she could have not believed she had done that. So they probably try to talk her out of it. "You can't take this. What are you saying? That's crazy. If you take this, you're going to die." And she said her troubles would be over if it happened. And she did exactly what she said she would do. She took a dose. The newspaper articles state that she took the dose, and within 20 minutes, just like Prince, she died. And as Mary foretold, her troubles were over. Both the mother and the son passed within an hour of each other. Now, as you can see from her grave, her name is the only one on the stone. There's no mention of Prince there. I do believe that Prince is buried with his mother because they died on the same day. I do believe that the stone was put there much later. That's why the dates don't match. Prince and her died in 1905 in March, because the newspaper articles came out at the end of March. And I think this stone was placed there much later, which is not uncommon. Very sad tale. Very sad tale. But that's the story of Mary Carlisle Simmons and Prince, her son. Thank you guys so much for listening and for watching the video. If you haven't yet, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I have so many more stories to tell you guys, and adventures to go on, and places to visit, and I can't wait to do it. I wish you all the best, and keep seeking. Bye-bye.